Check, check, check. One, two.
Alrighty, let's give a big round of applause for these little showmen out here. It was a big privilege getting to talk to everyone today, learning a lot about their goats, their projects, and hopefully the future that they stay within dairy goats. You know, there's not necessarily as many showmen, but dairy goats are a year-long project, and they keep going every year after year after year. I have goats that are still 12 years old, and I'm still showing them today. So it's really cool to see all these kids out here learn about how much they love their animals, all the personality that their goats have, the great names, even some middle names that I was hearing on some of the goats. We did a great job maneuvering around the ring, keeping those heads up, which is a big thing just starting into showing animals. So I love to see the presentation of them. They're all big time winners. Let's give them another big round of applause, please.
Entering the ring is your primary pygmy goat showmanship. Our next class will be junior kids under 4 months. Please make your way to the ringside. That's junior kids under 4 months. Please make your way to the ringside.
really cool. As soon as these four came into the ring, you just saw.
Now entering the ring. Alrighty. First class of dairy goats here, junior kids. One placing over two today. First off, for the advantage that she has in dairy strength, you get your hands on her. She's more open in that ribbing, more pliability of skin than we're seeing in the doe in two. And then when comparing them, as they move away from us, we see more width in between the hocks, proportional to size, obviously, but with just more width up into that escutcheon area than we're seeing in the doe in two. Two, then over three today, it's going to be a general appearance placing. It comes down to feet and legs, specifically in the rear set. Just more proper angulation, straighter about that hock when viewed from the rear, and they're walking away. And also carrying more width in that rump structure, again, proportional to size and different breed than we're seeing in the doe in three today. She also has a slight advantage in her turn in the top line, more specifically the chine, just a little stronger in that chine joint juncture in order to make sure that she's nice and level over that top line. Three, then over four today, it's going to first come up to body capacity, just a doe that's set a little wider more naturally, walks a little smoother in that front end assembly, as well as tracks a little smoother in that rear leg set than we're seeing in the doe in four. Four, then over five today, comes down to dairy strength, just a doe with more width in those ribs, more openness in that ribbing, more pliability of skin, flatter bone throughout than we're seeing at the young doe at the end of the line. The young doe rounding out the class today. Love the width she brings, love the power. Just need to dairy her up a little more in order to move her up today. So another big round of applause for them, and we'll get on with the next class.
Now entering our ring is junior does, senior kids, 4 to 8 months. That's 4 to 8 months. Next up, we'll have our junior yearlings, 8 to 20 months. Please be standing ringside. That's 8 to 20 months.
All right, another good set of kids here, and this Toggenburg came easily up to the top today. Just when you really look at that profile from the side, you just it's very pleasing to see as a dairy goat enthusiast, a dairy goat judge. You love the strong power that she has, but at the same time, she's elegant in her own right. You get into that first advantage, and that's in that front end assembly. You just see the extension of brisket that she has, the depth in that chest floor, but also that elbow's tucked against that body wall, which allows her to walk a lot smoother than her competitors behind her today. But then in that rear leg set, the angulation from that pin bone to that hock is nice and curved, and so it allows her to just walk with a lot more ease than we're seeing in the doe in 2. Then you get your hands on her, and she's just flat-boned, open in that ribbing, lots of pliability of skin, very well-deserving here, very competitive goat. 2, then over 3 today is going to be for her turn. First in general appearance, when you get behind these 2 goats, she's a little wider in that rear leg set, having more width, tracking with more width in between those hocks, but also up into that escutcheon that we're seeing in the doe in 3. And then you actually get your hands on these 2 does, and she does have more openness of ribbing. She is a little flatter boned than her doe at the in 3 today. But then, you know, she is going to lean a little bit to some general appearance, especially in that top line when we get into this doe in 3. This doe in 3, love the length of body that she has. Just wish she was a little more dairy, and I think she'd move up and be a little more competitive with the 2 in front of her today. So great job. Thank you for bringing them out, and we'll take in the next class.
Now entering the ring is our junior yearling does, 8 to 20 months. That's 8 to 20 months. On standby, we should have our senior does, 2 years and older, 2 years.
Moves a little straighter than we're seeing in the Nubian doe in 2. The Nubian doe in 2 over the Nigerian in 3. It's going to be for the advantage in dairy strength. Again, more openness of ribbing, more pliability of skin, flatness of bone than we're seeing in the doe in 3. The doe in 3, love the power, love the wit. Now, since we are dairy goats, we got to dairy her up. We got to make her maybe a little longer for how much wider she is, or we kind of have to breed for that quality of openness in those ribs, a flatter bone throughout, in order to move up and be more competitive today. But thank you for bringing all 3 out, and we'll get on to the next group.
and maybe not necessarily the extension that we see in 1, but more width and fullness than we're seeing in the doe in 2. She also carries the advantage today in general appearance when we look.
Now entering our ring is our senior does, 3 to 4 years old. On standby, we should have our senior does, 5 years and older.
All right, a really beautiful class here of goats that we get to see. Just love the strong memories up and down the line, and I think we had a great quality in a lot of them. But with these two at the top of the line, it really came down first to general appearance. Just a doe that's a little more nearly level from hip to pin, as well as thorough to thorough than we're seeing at the doe in two. Today, she also has in the advantage in body capacity, more width in that chest floor, more depth in that rear barrel, as well as more spring to that overall barrel than we're seeing in the doe in two today. And then when we get in that front end as well, just a little cleaner about it, a little more smoothness of blending from that neck into the withers than we're seeing in the doe in two. Two then over three, it's going to be for the mammary system, a doe that just has a higher rear udder attachment, more capacity in that rear part of the mammary, more fullness and extension in that forudder than we're seeing in the doe in three today. She also has the advantage in her own right in general appearance. When we look at width in between the hocks, just allowing there to be more capacity in that mammary system than we're seeing in the doe in three. Three then over four. It's a general appearance placing today. Just a doe that's a little stronger about that loin juncture, as well as more nearly level from hip to pin and thorough to thorough than we're seeing in the doe rounding out the class, as well as we get into that front end, a doe that keeps that elbow a little more tucked, a doe that has that foreleg placed a little more under her shoulder in order to help with tracking a lot smoother around the ring. Doe towards the end of the line today. Still love the productivity of the doe. Love the strength and power that we see. Love how tall and lean that neck is. Definitely a great part, so just kind of needs to be a little more balanced in order to move up today. But overall, great class, and we'll get into the next one.
In our ring now is our senior does, 5 years and older. That's 5 years and older. After this class, we're going to take a 5-minute break. After this class, we'll be taking a 5-minute break.
Alrighty, this is our age doe class today. One placing over two for the advantage in the mammary system, just having more capacity in that mammary, more fullness overall than we're seeing in the doe in two. She also carries an advantage in dairy strength, the doe that's more open in that ribbing, more angularity throughout than we're seeing in the doe in two. Two then over three for the advantage that she carries in body capacity, a doe that's wider in that chest floor, more depth in that chest floor as well as that heart girth, carrying more depth and width into that rear barrel than we're seeing in the doe in three today. The doe in three, definitely want to commend her. This is an 8-year-old doe, an 8-year-old doe standing on those strong feet and legs. Very commendable there. Thank you for bringing them all out. The first and second places are going to stick around while we bring in all the first and second places of the Purebred Dairy Goat Show.
We're taking a 5-minute break. So everybody can get ready for the junior doe, senior does, first and second places. Could you please come to the ring side? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to get this show started again. If we could go ahead and have that next class come in. The next drive, sorry.
Alrighty, so this is our grand champion lineup for our purebred or registered dairy goat show. We got everything from 6-week-old kid, and we got to see up to an 8-year-old doe today. Love seeing the longevity. Again, this project goes year after year after year, and it never stops. You can ask my family and I, as we're still milking 31 goats currently, and I've been milking for about a year and a half continuously and haven't stopped a single day yet. So it's really good to see not only productive does, but great structured does, and I think we have a lineup of that today, just starting all the way at our age doe to our young stock, which is very promising. Now, when we pick a champion for our registered breed, although we love how promising that we see these goats, these back 6 goats, how great structured they look, we don't know what their mammary systems are going to look like yet. And in dairy goats, that comes out to about 35% of the scorecard as they age. So even though we have some beautiful does to select from, for today's champion, it's going to be from one of the milkers. And when this milker came in to her class, she came easily to the top of her class in my head. She's a doe that's very striking in that profile. Just love the length of body, love the levelness and width throughout. She's very productive. She's got more depth of body than most of the goats in the lineup. She's got a great structured mammary system. It's going to be that 3- and 4-year-old Nigerian is going to be the little champion today. So out. And then we take a look at that second place, Toggenburg that we have. Great mammary system. Love the extension of that foreudder. Love the height that we see in the rear udder as well. But I think today I'm going to move back one class to the 2-year-old for my reserve, just for a doe that's a little wider throughout, a little more capacity in that rear, stronger in that front end than we're seeing in the doe that was second place in that 3- and 4-year-old class. You'll be my reserve today.
Sorry, that's the grade class next. My apologies. Just a moment. My apologies again. Standing ringside, we need our junior kid. Junior kid under 4 months, please. Thank you.
All right, a single entry today for our unregistered junior kid, a doe that's very well structured. Love that angulation to that rear leg set. Love the profile stature that we get to see of this doe. Just a doe that's very well deserving of first and much more competition. She'll come back for her grade champion drive.
Next up in the ring, we have our junior grade does, 4 months to 8 months.
Oh, that's fine. Alrighty. Today for the intermediate kids, one placing over two today for the advantage in dairy strength. Just a doe with more openness of ribbing, more pliability of skin, more angulation throughout than we're seeing at the kid behind her in two. And a doe that also just tracks with a little more width in between those hocks than we're seeing over the kid in two. The kid in two, love the length of body, and for that, they'll be commended today. So thank you so much.
Our next class is grade junior does, junior yearlings 8 and under 20 months.
Alrighty, yearlings for our grade class here. One placing over two today for the advantage. First in general appearance, just a doe that's more nearly level from hip to pin as they move about the ring. Then you get in that rear leg set, a doe that tracks a little smoother, more properly angulated, as well as carrying more width in between those hocks and up into that escutcheon when compared to the doe in two. Two then over three today, it's going to be for dairy strength. A doe that's just more open in that ribbing, more flatness of bone throughout, a little cleaner about that thigh than we're seeing in the doe in three today. The doe in three, love the length of body that she has, love the upstandingness. Just maybe not quite as dairy in order to move up today, but still a very pretty doe. Thank you for bringing them out, and I believe I need to keep the first place and second place in the ring.
Can we get the first and seconds from each grade class to come back for grade drive? And then can I get my champion purebred and my reserve champion purebred back ringside for best in show?
All right, a nice little show of our unregistered stock, but great quality that we're seeing in a lot of these animals. Love the length of body, love the dairy strength that we see. And you really got to nitpick in order to pick a champion today between these top three that we have out here. But today, the doe that's really going to take it for me is the doe that carries more width in that barrel, a doe that carries more depth in that barrel overall, a doe that has more width in between those hocks, more straighter about that hawk when viewed from the rear, and just proportionally wider in that chest floor. It's going to be this little one here at the end of the line. She'll take my champion today. And then when we pick a reserve, we're picking out of these front two right here. And I think the doe that's kind of closest to our champion maybe is a little longer, a little more level than the other. It's going to be doe at the other end of the line. She'll be my reserve.
Thank you.
How's video stuff going? Fine. Yeah, it works. I haven't heard from Sky Valley yet, but it's Sunday morning, so yeah. My expectations are low.
And then your champion for that one should be next season.
Thank you very much. That was our champion grade was Mercy Ash, and our reserve champion was Rachel Ash. Congratulations.
travel the states to judge, but I try and work with the community more.
If we can have back in the ring Rachel Ash for champion purebred, Jana Courtney for reserve champion purebred, Mercy Ash for grade champion, and Rachel Ash for grade champion. Thank you.
Alrighty. So this is completing our dairy goat breed show, and I hope you guys realize how much of a privilege it is for me to be out here today. Being a kid that started my dairy goat career, kind of showing here, 11 to 12 years ago, and then getting to bring all my goats out, but now coming full circle and getting to judge the show, and hopefully inspire some of the new younger generation to keep with it with the dairy goats, because I know it's a hard project, but it truly is fun, and it's very fulfilling when you get to the big stage up here. But lots of great quality in these top 4 animals today that we really got to see. Love again the structure of them, going into that general appearance, the strong feet and legs, great angulation throughout, lots of dairy strength. Again, you need that for the dairy goat. That's the only thing that makes them different than the boar goat. But also those mammary systems, right? Very productive, very secure. I think we have some great grade stock, but today our purebreds are going to take it for best in show and then reserve best in show today. So thank you so much. Let's give them a big round of applause, please. And we'll get into our next classes.
We're going to go ahead and let this class exit out and give a couple of minutes before we start with our showmanship classes. Thank you. About 5-minute break. Are we ready, Stacy? Okay. In the ring, we're going to have entering our junior showmanship. That's Dairy Goat Showmanship, our juniors. Thank you. If we could have on standby for our next class will be intermediate showmanship. Please, on standby, our intermediate showmanship.
All right, a big round of applause for our intermediate showman. I know it's only getting hotter by the second, so I'm really trying. But again, like I said earlier, showmanship takes time. And these kids, they work all year leading up to this point. So I think it's only right that I give them my time in the ring. This is a very competitive class, and it makes me excited to get into those senior showmen because we already had a competitive junior class, and then we get into our intermediates, and they're just even more competitive in their own right. And I really think, these first three showmen had me in a puzzle for a little bit, and it just kind of comes down to nitpicking and the scorecard about what really weighs more percentage-wise. And the young lady in 1 today placing over the young lady in 2 really comes down to maneuvering. 1, we got in that maneuver more correctly in that side-by-side position, but also just wider turns with the goat. We're a little more elegant in the way that we're walking, but also just the knowledge of her own goat really brought her to the top today. This young lady in 2, really want to commend her with a young Nigerian and showing that in this ring in such a competitive class and doing so well. Having a Nigerian that is that calm, that young, that's a really true testament to how much you've worked with that doe. So I really commend you there. But 2 placing over 3, it's going to come down to the knowledge points, not only of body parts, but also in that scorecard area. And then we were just a little quicker about setting that doe up. We got a little more accurate, a little faster, and I think she had the slight edge over the showman in 3. 3 then over 4 today. It's going to come down to a couple points, not only in the clipping of the goat itself, but also when we get into the showmanship of the goat, just getting it set a little better on those rear legs, as well as that foreleg placement, maybe a little less tendency to kind of Superman, right? We want to get them all nice and square with these dairy goats. And then in knowledge, a couple of those body parts just were a little more accurate than over the showman in 4. 4 then over 5 today. It's going to be presence and showing in the ring. I think you do a great job really displaying your confidence and getting that goat set up. Now we just got to maybe tweak a couple more things in order to move up today. But that confidence in showing that animal, having her set up a little more than the couple showmen behind her. But then also we did do body parts pretty well and more knowledge of that scorecard. So I really commend you there. 5 then over 6 today. It's going to be for not only kind of walking the goat around the ring, kind of keeping that head up a little more, being a little more attentive to where I was, but also for the points as we get into the knowing a little more about that scorecard than our young showman at the end of the line. The young showman at the end of the line, really commend you today for coming out, one with a lot older doe. The older does don't do necessarily so strong in this heat, so you did a very good job showing her. You got her set up. You were very attentive. I hope you had some fun today, and I hope I get to see you soon. Keep showing these dairy goats. Give them another round of applause. We'll get into that senior showmanship class.
Now entering our ring is Dairy Goat Showmanship Senior class. This is a senior showmanship class.
As you guys get ready to start hauling out, please make sure that your pens are clean, as we will be using those pens for market week.
No, good. Good job. And then make an announcement starting with junior does. I didn't turn it off. Following this class, we're going to take a 5-minute break before we start in with our Pygmy Goat show today. That's a 5-minute break. Thank you. For our Pygmy Goat show, we're going to be starting with the wethers, then we'll go to does, and then bucks last. Thank you.
All right, clap it up for our last showmanship class for our dairy goats. Again, it's just getting hotter, but these kids really hung in there, and you know what? I'm very proud of the way that they not only kept themselves calm, but their animals calm, and we really moved fluidly throughout the ring. But again, this competition is getting fiercer and fiercer, and it's really a pleasure to see that we do have those young juniors, those primaries, all those kids are able to look up to these young showmen and how well they do and how competitive they get. But we really had some great quality showmen out here. We went through the questions, the scorecard, the body parts, what we think we can improve about our goats. I even really got into, knowing the breeds of goats, since there's now 9 recognized breeds of dairy goat. It's important to know those things and really the location of where these goats come from. Lots of them come from, the Swiss breeds, the Swiss Alps. We have a couple African breeds that are more known, especially in this part of the county, or really in this country, just because the Nigerian dwarfs kind of dominate the country and how many there are. But really enjoyed quizzing these young showmen. One placing over 2, it really came down to kind of nitpicking, right? First, it's that maneuver. Our young showman in 1 was the only one that did that maneuver correctly. Goats are considered large livestock. We do not go behind any large livestock, with that tendency of whether kicking or anything like that, but then also that wide fluid turn. The biggest hint that I have for any showman that's listening, those front feet should never cross. If your front feet cross, your circle, your turn was not wide enough. You want them to stay as kind of fluid as they can. If they cross, that's where your animal gets tripped up, and then you get tripped up over your animal. That's the best tip I could give about showmanship. But 1 placing over 2, it comes down to the maneuvering of the goats, the ease of setting up, as well as a couple of the pointers when we got into some of the body parts. But very great job. These 2 showmen, very well deserving of being up here. 2 then over 3 today. It's going to be for a little more accuracy on that scorecard that we had, but also just getting that goat show kind of tightened up and shown off just a teeny bit faster, a little less hassle when on the move than we're seeing in the showman in 3. 3 then over 4. It's going to be knowledge of those body parts, as well as when we got into breeds of goat and knowing their personal goat a little more than when we compared it to the showman in 4. Also commending the showman in 3 for really knowing that body part. Today I was quizzing because I think a lot of these young showmen also show smaller animals, and the area I'm talking about is the crop. And a lot of people go towards the neck, but it's actually right behind that shoulder. It's that gap right there. So great job to the young showman here. 4 then over 5 comes down to just a little more of that tweaking knowledge of the animals. 5 is a newer showman, but she did a really good job really setting up that goat and also bringing that old girl in here. But she stuck in there with you, a great team. I hope you stick with it and we can see you in the future years. Give them another round of applause. Let's get them all cooled off, and we'll hopefully go finish this goat show.
Thank you, showman. We're going to take a 5-minute break before we start into the Pygmy Goat show. A 5-minute break. Okay, guys, we are ready to go ahead and start with the Pygmy Goat show now. Thank you very much for letting us have that break. We're going to bring in first our 4 to 11 month old wethers. Our 4 to 11 month old wethers.
All right, a young weather class here for the Pygmy show. One placing over two today. First, it's going to be for the advantage that he has in the feet and legs. Just a little more angulated in that rear leg set, straighter about that foreleg than we're seeing in the young weather in two, as well as a little stronger over that back structure with a less tendency to roach than we're seeing in the weather in two today. Two, then over three, it's going to come down to that general appearance area. Again, we're getting in that back structure with a less tendency to dip now, as well as just a little stronger in that rump structure, as well in his own right, being a little more angulated in that rear leg set, carrying more width in those rear legs in between those hocks than the young weather that rounds out the class. The young weather that rounds out the class, very stylish weather. Just maybe needs a little more structural tuning in order to compete with these very well-footed weathers ahead of them. So great job, and we'll go into the next class.
Our next class entering the ring is senior weathers, age 2 to 5 years old.
All right, 2-year-old Weathers here. One placing over 2 today. It's going to be first when we get in that feet and legs area of the scorecard. Just a little straighter about that foreleg when viewed from the front. A little straighter about that rear leg when viewed from the rear and watching him walk away. As well as just a little stronger or a little more width in that front end and chest floor than we're seeing in the young Weather in 2. 2 then over 3. It's going to be in for their own right in feet and legs. We're just a little more properly angulated in that rear leg set with a less tendency to kind of break at that hock, as well as carrying more width throughout, more depth in that barrel than we see at the young Weather rounding out the class. The young Weather rounding out the class, man, tongue twister. Love the elegance that he has. Might just need a little more width and power to really move up in the Pygmy breed today. So thank you so much for bringing him out.
Next to the ring, we'll have our senior Weathers, 6 years and older. Thank you.
Alrighty, our aged Weathers here. One placing over 2 today for the advantage that he has in body capacity. Just a deeper, wider chest floor. More dimension to him in that rear part of that leg, the rear set of legs, as well as just carrying more width and straighter about that hock when viewed from the rear. 2 then placing over 3. It's going to be under general appearance, just stronger in those feet and legs, as well as tracking with more width in between them. And as well in body capacity, just has more depth to him and width in that barrel than we're seeing at the young Weather rounding out the class. The young Weather rounding out the class. Love the longevity about him. Him being 8 years old out here just needs a little more dimension to him in order to kind of place higher today in this Pygmy breed. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Showman. We're going to move into our champion Weather, If we can have our first and second place winners from classes 15, 16, and 17 back to the ring, please.
All right, when we get into pygmy breeds, it's a dual purpose breed. It's a breed we're looking at not only muscling, but we are looking for longevity and elegance over a long period of time, as it is a dwarf breed. So out of this lineup here, I think there's one goat that definitely sticks out, and it comes to the best structured goat out of all the ones up here today. Comes down to the most dimension in that rear, as well as levelness and strength over that top. That strength in that front end, but also mostly it's going to come down to the structure in those feet and legs. It's going to be this little brown one here is going to be our champion Weather today. Good job. Yeah, pull him right over here, okay? We bring in that second place one, and you know what? He's just as competitive as the one that placed in front. Still got that same kind of dimension when comparing to the couple ahead of him. Very dead on that top line. We'll stay in that same class for the Weather. Good job. All right, great job, everyone.
The champions for these two groups, the grand champion there was the Rayanne, and the reserve also went to Rayanne. Junior does. Okay, guys, in the ring, we're going to be bringing in our bucks. We have 2 separate classes, but we're going to go ahead and bring them in at the same time so that we can not have these kids out in the heat for too much longer. Thank you.
All right, there were only 2 bucks entered for a whole buck show today, so they each were in different classes, and instead of bringing them out and doing round the rosy a bunch, we kind of just brought them in and did our drive right away. So they each respectively won their divisions, but now picking a grand champion buck in reserve. I really like the style of both of these guys, like the build, but I think one's built a little wider. I think one's built a little more stout, a little stronger on that back and just general appearance area. And, of course, one definitely has a better set of feet and legs. And that's going to be that young buck, that black buck today. He's going to be our grand champion, and this brown one is going to be our reserve. Now I need my grand champions and my reserve grand champions back so I can pick a best in show, please. Grand champions and reserve grand champions back. I got you. All right, what a fun little Pygmy show. I don't really get to judge them too often, but it is cool putting in perspective and seeing, the power yet elegance of this breed in general, and just, how small they are for the dwarf breed, but giving us so much as a dual purpose breed that's out there. Now, when we come into Best in Show, again, we're getting into structure, we're getting in to the dimension.
I can't say. Sendrid. All right, we're going to be moving into our showmanship with our junior class first, please.
All right, this is such a good group of young showmen here. Please give them a big round of applause. I know we got a little smaller crowd than we had earlier today. You know, everybody else is cooling off, but that gives these kids even more props for hanging in there in this heat, and especially trying to control these goats. These goats, you know, they're tired, they're hot, they don't want to be here as much as right now. We don't necessarily want to be in the sunlight either, but these kids really held in there really strong, and I give them all props to being out here. But like I said, this is such a competitive class. You could tell that these kids all know their stuff about their goats. You know, we're talking about where the origin of the Pygmies were from, all the way to body parts, all the way to their purpose. And I think it really came down to just some little fine-tuning as we get into the showing of the goat. And Showman 1, just the intensity that we get to see, how stacked up her goat gets a lot quicker, and just you know, keeping that head nice up and high while walking, while on the standstill. Very good, and really want to commend her. But it is for the ability of showing the goat just a little more intensely and a little more correctly that goes over the Showman in 2. The Showman in 2, I think you did a very good job. You know, your goat's in that pregnancy stage, right? So that get up and go is a little slower, but at the same time, I think you did such a good job with her. I just think you had such strong competition that it was a little tough between the two of you up there. And then the young man in 3 today, your goat just did not want to stay still, and that rear end just kept kind of moving. And with 2 goats that just were stacked and not moving, it made it just a little harder on you to compete. But you knew your stuff. You knew your body parts, and that's something you should take home as something that's you should be really proud of, and that you hang in there with that competition with these 2 young ladies in front of you. Let's give them another big round of applause. Let them get out of their whites and cooled off.
Next, coming into our ring is going to be our senior showmanship. That's for our senior
All right. There you go. My goodness. Alrighty, a single entry today in our senior showmanship division. Again, thank you guys so much for having me out, even though everyone went home. I really appreciate being able to come here and get the honor to judge everyone again at my home fair. It's my favorite week out of the year, whether it was when I was a kid or now, just kind of as a judge / spectator. This young lady did a great job. I definitely, give her a hard time, but when there's only one person in here, you got to give them a little more tough time. Quiz them a little more. Get them prepped for their next show when they show off these pygmies. Very well deserving of first and much more competition. Thank you for hanging out with us today, and I hope you get to stay cool. We'll see you guys next time.